Hello everybody, welcome back to another video with Mighty Nighty. Today, I have a very nice positional game to share with you between two unanimous players on Lichess. This game was played about a week ago. We start off with d4, knight f6, Nimzo Indian defense. See the immediate capture of the knight. Another idea is to maybe play d5 here, or castle maybe, but the knight is taken right away. From here, it's the pawn that does the recapturing. If the queen takes and says, I don't want to double the pawns, then at some point, knight e4 is going to be bothersome. Not right away. First, not c6, b6, and then b3, for example, castle. We save the knight e4 tempo for when we might need it. For example, bishop b7, restricting the bishop on f1. Bishop b2, first secure the center. And now if you don't play f3, for example, if you play knight e2 or something like knight f3, then at some point we can dive in with knight e4. It's just not very convenient for white to play. Sure, the evaluation says it's plus 0.5, but I don't like this knight sitting right here on e4. It just looks great for black, in my opinion. And I feel like the opponent felt the same. That's why here we did not see the queen take, we saw the pawn capture, taking on the double pawn structure in exchange for the double bishops. From here, it's c5, e3, knight c6, bishop d3, d6, a3, castle. Black taking on a very solid structure here. b6, fianchetto the bishop. And now d5 was the first move I wanted to really take a look at. d5, it says it's not good, and I agree. d5 kind of takes the tension off the center. Kind of takes the tension off these pawns. Maybe at some point you could have had an e4 idea and then push forward with d5 or e5. When you play d5, you kind of close it up, and now this e4 isn't as effective. So d5, knight e5, exchange is played, and e4. Now better was to go knight e5 and target that c-pawn. And should there be an exchange, you can't take on f3 because then f7 is going to get taken with check. But you can take on e6. And this knight is controlled. If you play knight g5, maybe to target this h6 square, not a problem. Knight kicked back. I think you could even take. And after the pawn takes, he has double pawns. It's just not fun. This bishop on c1, not having a good time. Really difficult for white to play, in my opinion. So, not how it's played, though. After d5, it's knight e5. We see an exchange of knights. e4, queen c7. And computer doesn't like this. It says after queen c7, the evaluation is like plus 1.1. Queen can start to drift over to the king side. No pieces there, but a knight to defend the king. It could get really scary. But from here, it's bishop g5. Says I want to attack the knight right away. Play is knight d7. Computer also didn't like this. Preferred knight h5. Bishop f1. I think the idea of bishop f1 was to get the rook to d3 or the queen to d3. I see no other reason why bishop f1 would be played. Although I don't know why bishop e2 wasn't played. Like, no need to go all the way back, I don't think. But okay. Bishop f1. Pawn takes d5. Apparently this was a big mistake by black. Trying to undouble the pawns is an interesting idea, but white does the same thing here. White's pawns are now undoubled, and this bishop is now wide open. From here, queen d6. Another downside, you really don't want a queen blocking a pawn. Typically, you want the knights blocking the pawn. The queen blocking is not ideal. c4, f6, kicking the bishop back. Goes back to h4, knight f8, g5. This rook lift idea, black, I sense, was a little afraid of it, so said, okay, g5, now if you play rook g3, I have knight g6, and your bishop's trapped. So, not played. Bishop g3 was played. Knight g6. Now that the pawn is on g5, the knight does not block it. So now knight g6 is okay. h4. Giving up a pawn, but I think white's hopes was to open up the g-file. Now, the problem with this move is that, yeah, the g-file is open, but how will white take advantage of it? You can't move your rook to g3, that's taken. You can't bring your queen to g3, that's still taken by the pawn. So your only hope is to get your queen to, well, g5 is also taken, so g4. So what does the computer say to play here? Bishop c8. It says bring your bishop back into the game and protect the only vulnerable square on your king side. That is what is played here, bishop c8. f3, trying to open up another square for the queen, maybe queen f2 at some point. Here, f5 says if you take it, you're going to get skewered. The black bishop will skewer the queen and rook. Not fun. Rook back to d2 says I want to take your pawn now. Too late. f4 is played, and now look at this black bishop. Useless. Look at this white bishop. Useless. This simple f4 move has crushed both white bishops. It's now really difficult, in my opinion, to play with white. Your only thing going for you is this passed pawn, which is dangerous, but for now it's nothing. From here, king f2, I guess trying to bolt and escape to the queen side where he has his queen and rooks. Bishop d7, a4, a5, rook b1, rook a6. I didn't like rook a6. I don't think this pawn needs to be defended twice. If anything, rook b8, but rook a6 is just weird. Anyway, rook a6. Computer says it's fine. I just thought it was weird. Bishop d3, rook f8, queen to d1, queen f6, so we just see some maneuvering. Black trying to get his queen into the attack. Queen goes back to d6. That I don't get it either. Why would you move your queen to f6 and then back? Queen d1 and then queen back to f6 again. Bishop c2. We see a little shuffling. Now h5. h5, I guess the idea is to control g4. That's the only thing I can think of. Other than that, I have no idea. Rook b2. Queen f6. Go back with the bishop, and h3. And now is where it gets crazy. This square is now open on h4 for the black queen. From here, it's queen to g1. The best move is to take, as scary as this looks, and allow this queen on f6 to invade your camp. It says here it's not really a problem. It says your king can actually run if checks are given. Not to c1, excuse me. But it says it's not too bad if you play queen e2. It says black is still winning, or not winning, but better. It says play like this. It's tough for a human to find, though. So yeah, h3, queen g1 is played here. Problem with that is that after king to h7, which is what was played, rook g8 is on its way. We see king e1 trying to make a run. Knight h4. The knight dives right in, says I'm going to take on g2, and if you take, I'm going to take on f3 and win your queen. So, best move is bishop d1. Bishop b3 was played. Rook g8. Don't get greedy and take the pawn just yet. I mean, you can. You're still fine, but why not just simply move the rook to g8? This pawn now pinned, and you can take with the rook and have an extremely monstrous rook on g2, or even better, take on f3. Threaten the fork. That's why bishop d1 is recommended, to cover f3. Bishop d1 is played. Pawn takes g2. Rook a2. And now this queen on g1, practically crushed. Can't go anywhere except f2. And if the queen, for example, let's say a passing move is played. If the queen does go to f2, it's not going to be great. Rook a8, rook g8. Good luck. You're not surviving this attack. So, from here, king h6, a waiting move is my only guess. Rook a3, keeps calling for rook g3, but black just goes back and forth. Again, calls for rook g3, not played. We see rook a3 again, but this time rook g7. Black does not go for the three-folded repetition. Rook a2. White clearly not knowing what to do. Rook a8. Prepares to bring the rook to g8 now. Rook b8 is played. I don't know why the rook went to b8. Why not g8? I don't know. Rook b8. Maybe to protect this b pawn, so this queen on f6 could do other things. Rook a b2 says no way. Second your queen moves, rook takes b6, check is coming. Rook g6 now says I'm going to protect my pawn a third time. Rook back to a2. Bishop c8. And I guess with this move, white is basically either doing a waiting move or trying to go to a6 and attack c4. I'm not sure what the idea of bishop c8 was. Queen d8. So black really going defensive when he doesn't have to. Rook a2, queen d7, and now it gets interesting. Queen h3. Black gets ready to attack this f3 weakness. It is defended, but only temporarily. Rook a2, bishop d7. Rook a3, and now, finally, black doubles up the rooks. Rook a2 again, so white just going back and forth here. And it says right away you could have taken on h2. Queen takes, make another one. Queen takes, you're crushing. It's mate in 14. I mean, lost. You're up a bishop, mate in 14. It's over. But he does not spot this. Instead, black plays here rook g3. Another perfectly fine move. Attacking f3 says if your bishop takes, I'm going to take with the queen. Move your king, and I'm just going to start picking off your pawns. Queen has to move. You take with check. I don't really care. King h7 can be played, and you're dead. You're dead. You're not surviving this. This queen has to move, and then, well, not to e1. I mean, the point is it's lost. Queen needs to move, and it's mate. Where does the queen even move? It can't. Best is king d3 and let the queen fall with check. It's over. Rook takes to b6, king h7. Or excuse me, not how it's played though. Bishop e2. The bishop doesn't take the rook, so the rook goes wild. Rook takes f3. Says if you take me now, check. Move your king. Queen c3 check. Move your king. I have so many ways to win, but knight f3 is, in my opinion, one of the most simple. Check, we don't care. If rook c2, okay, queen d3. You can't block, otherwise queen f1 or queen takes d2 mate. Actually, you're done. King has to move. Queen is once again picked up. Oh, shoot. Sorry. Let me quickly go back to where we were. So, point being, that cannot be played. There we go. So after this capture on f3, the bishop takes. Queen captures on f3 with check. King moves to e1. Queen takes on e4 with check. King d2. Knight f3, hop right in. King c3. Knight takes g1, rook takes, and now it's just kind of cleaning up. Queen d4, queen d3. And we see pawns picked up one after another. And eventually, a pretty way to finish. Sacrifice the bishop, and after the king takes, because it's a double check, checkmate. Very nice positional game, in my opinion. Going all the way here is where I believe the game really turned. In this specific position, where this h4, first of all, was terrible. And it got worse when you allowed this invasive f-pawn, in my opinion. That was a problem. And then allowing this knight to knife right into h4. Allowing the pawn on g2 was just a monster. And then it's just down from there. Great positional game, in my opinion. Please let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Hope you all enjoyed it. And maybe took a few things away. Thank you, everybody. Bye.